Welcome back to Reddit Tales. Today's story is about a man who gets publicly called a, for now, boyfriend at a family barbecue and quietly walks away for good. As you listen, ask yourself what you would do if your partner said the honest part out loud. The smell of charcoal and burgers used to mean summer to me. For 3 years, it also meant family. K.H. Lowe's family, the Fergusons. I knew the warped deck boards, the sticky screen door, and how long to let Uncle Rob rant about the neighbor's lawn before handing him another beer. That afternoon, I was at the grill with him, apron over my t-shirt, turning chicken while Rob explained the right way to cook. "You crowd them in the center, you're just boiling them," he said, shifting his beer. "You gotta give them space, like people." "Wisdom for the ages," I said, smiling as I moved the chicken to the cooler side of the grate. I brought my own potato salad, my mom's recipe with dill and the right bite of vinegar. Aunt Susan nearly hugged me when I walked in. "A man who cooks." "You're a keeper, Alex," she said, like she always did. On the patio, K.H. Lowe was laughing with her cousins Megan and Liv, telling a story about her marketing office. She caught my eye and gave me a quick, automatic smile, then turned back to her audience. She looked bright in the late sun. I felt that comfortable warmth I'd gotten used to. This was my life. It was good. Later, when everyone had eaten, the party settled into that lazy, full-belly quiet. I was stacking plates near the kitchen door when Rob slapped my shoulder and pulled me toward the circle where K.H. Lowe lounged in a patio chair. "So," he boomed, loud enough to cut through the backyard chatter. "Serious question. When's our K.H. Lowe finally going to make an honest man out of you, Alex? We're not getting any younger. Time to settle down." It was the same joke he'd made for 2 years. Usually K.H. Lowe would roll her eyes and say something like, "Don't rush us, Uncle Rob." I'd grin and play along, routine, safe, but not that day. K.H. Lowe didn't roll her eyes. She snorted, sharp, derisive. It was loud enough that the whole patio went quiet. Then she leaned forward like she was sharing something funny with everyone. "With him, please." The words weren't mumbled. They were clear, like she wanted them to land. This is the part where a lot of people pretend they didn't hear it because facing it feels worse than ignoring it. But you can't unhear something said that cleanly. I saw Aunt Susan's face freeze. I saw Rob's beer stop halfway to his mouth. I saw Liv look down at her lap like the wood grain was suddenly interesting. K.H. Lowe waved lazily, taking in the grill, the faded deck furniture, the quiet suburb beyond the fence. "Settle is the right word," she said, smirking. "I'm not ready to sign up for a life of this." My heart didn't race. It didn't pound. It felt like it just stopped, like a cold stone had dropped into my chest. "Alex is great," she continued in this calm, explaining tone. "He's sweet. He's unbelievably nice, but come on." She looked at her cousins like she expected them to back her up. "He's my for now. Everyone knows that, right, Mag?" Megan turned red and mumbled something that didn't sound like words. The backyard went silent in a way that felt heavy. K.H. Lowe wasn't even trying to hurt me, not in her mind. That was the worst part. She was saying it like it was obvious, like it was a normal thing everyone agreed on, and I was being slow for not catching up. I looked at her face and searched for a sign that she regretted it. A twitch, a softening, anything. I saw impatience instead, like I was ruining the joke by not laughing, and then something in me went very still, not anger, not a plan, just a decision. I walked over to Aunt Susan. Her eyes were wide, shiny with shock and sympathy. I held out my paper plate with a half-eaten burger and a scoop of my own potato salad. "Thanks for lunch, Susan," I said, my voice even, polite. It was delicious. She took the plate without thinking, mouth open like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the air. Then I stepped in front of K.H. Lowe's chair. She looked up, the smirk fading into confusion. I made sure my voice carried the same way hers did. "You're right," I said, nodding once. "You're absolutely right." No sarcasm, no yelling, just facts. I didn't look at Rob, I didn't look at the cousins. I turned and walked across the deck, down the steps and around the side of the house to my car out front. Behind me I heard Aunt Susan choke out my name, then K.H. Lowe sharper, annoyed. "Oh, for God's sake." I didn't run. I didn't slam anything. I closed the gate with a gentle click. That click sounded like a door closing on a life I had been building with someone who never planned to live in it. The drive home felt empty, but not in a sad way, more like a room after all the furniture has been removed, quiet, clean, exposed. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Her contact photo flashed up, KH Low laughing on a hiking trip. I let it ring. It buzzed again, and again. By the third call, I powered it off without looking. When I got to my apartment, it felt like a museum to a relationship that had just been revealed as fake. A framed photo from her sister's wedding, an overpriced candle she loved, a coffee mug with an inside joke. I didn't smash anything. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop and made a new document. I named it Exit Strategy. That might sound cold, but sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop arguing with reality and start planning around it. First step was simple. I boxed up anything that was hers or anything that screamed us. Candle, mug, sweater she left. Photos? I folded everything neatly, labeled the box, and put it in the closet. Then I turned my phone back on. The flood of notifications almost made me laugh. Almost. 5:42 p.m. What the hell was that? You just left. You made a huge scene. 5:55 p.m. My mom is crying. My uncle feels terrible. Way to make everyone uncomfortable over a joke. 6:20 p.m. Are you really not going to answer me? This is so immature. 7:05 p.m. Alex, call me. We need to talk. 8:30 p.m. Fine, be a child. You know I didn't mean it like that. I read them the way you read a report, looking for the main point. There was no regret in those messages, just irritation. Not that she hurt me, but that I didn't stay in my place and smooth it over. The later messages shifted tone, but not meaning. 10:15 p.m. Okay, I'm sorry you got your feelings hurt, but you have to understand Rob puts me on the spot. I had to say something. 11:02 p.m. Can we please just talk? This is stupid. I'm sorry you got your feelings hurt is not an apology. It's a way to blame you for reacting. I put the phone face down and sat in the dark. And then the memories came, not the good highlight reel, but the small moments that suddenly made sense. Me canceling a fishing weekend with my brother because she got overwhelmed painting her apartment. Me fixing the rattle in her car, 3 evenings, money, time. Her gratitude lasting until the next thing she needed. Me sitting through dinner after dinner with her work friends while my job was treated like background noise. I hadn't been loved for who I was. I'd been used for how easy I was to have around. The next morning, she tried a new approach. 9:17 a.m. I'm coming over. We're talking about this. I didn't reply. At 9:45, my doorbell rang, 3 long presses. I sat at my kitchen table with coffee, reading the news on my tablet. I heard her keys in the lock. She still had a set. The knob turned, but the deadbolt held. Pause, then a knock, harder. Alex, open the door. I know you're in there. I took a slow sip of coffee. Silence is a boundary too when words have been used against you for years. Stop being dramatic, she said through the wood. Open the door right now. More silence. She sighed, shoved her keys back into her purse. Fine, whatever. When you decide to be an adult, you know where to find me. Her footsteps faded down the hall. That was the moment I knew she hadn't come to fix anything. She came to regain control. That afternoon, I started the admin work. I changed the Wi-Fi password. I removed her from my streaming accounts. I withdrew the small amount of money in our shared date-night savings pot which I had funded, not because I needed the cash, because it was mine. Then her texts changed again, a little crack of unease. 4:11 p.m. Did you change the Netflix password? 7:30 p.m. My mom asked about you. I didn't know what to say. 1:05 p.m. Alex, seriously, this isn't you. Talk to me. This isn't you was true. The version of me that accepted scraps was gone. On Monday, I called in sick to work, not because I was falling apart, but because I needed time to rebuild. I went for a long, punishing run. I cleaned my apartment until it shined, like I was wiping off fingerprints from a life that didn't fit me anymore. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I called my friend Mark, the friend KH Low called kind of a bro. He picked up and laughed. Dude, I thought you got abducted, or worse, joined her book club. Something like that, I said. You free for a beer this week? And just like that, space opened up. Space for people who didn't treat my kindness like a service. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. I muted KH Lowe's contact. I didn't block her at first. I wanted the messages as proof, not because I planned to use them, but because I needed to stop doubting my own eyes. I started using that silence to build again. I accepted the promotion I'd been hesitant about because it meant more travel. Travel she used to call a flaky excuse to avoid real life. I signed up for the Advanced Data Analytics certification I'd bookmarked a year earlier. I rebuilt the engine on my old Jeep with greasy hands, simple conversations. The first ripple of consequences came from Megan, KH Lowe's quiet cousin. One Tuesday evening, she texted, "Hey Alex, I know this is weird. I just wanted to say I'm really sorry about what happened at the barbecue. It was awful. You didn't deserve that. I hope you're okay." I stared at my phone for a long time before replying. I didn't want gossip. I didn't want to be pulled back into that family story. Finally, I wrote, "Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it. I'm doing well." Her typing bubbles appeared and disappeared. Then, "Good, that's good. Things have been weird." And then she added, like she couldn't help it, "She's seeing someone new. A guy named Derek, creative director, met him like a week after." A week after. It didn't hurt. It just confirmed everything. I had been a placeholder. Placeholders get replaced fast. Mark showed me a photo later since I had deleted my social media and he hadn't. Rooftop bar. KH Lowe pressed against a man in a designer shirt, white teeth, careful hair. The caption read like a punchline aimed at me, something about upgrade and fire. Mark looked at my face. "You good?" "I'm great," I said, and I meant it. The photo wasn't pain. It was information. Then the updates from Megan changed from smug to worried. "Derek lost his job," she messaged one morning. "He said it was a creative disagreement. Now he's focusing on his personal brand." 3 weeks later, KH Lowe asked my mom for money for rent. Derek's brand building phase is apparently expensive. Mom said no. It was a whole thing. After that, "Have you talked to KH Lowe? She's on edge." Liv said Derek showed up at her work and made a scene because some guy was talking to her. I didn't answer those messages. I didn't want to be part of the rescue mission. Then one Saturday morning, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen since the barbecue. Uncle Rob. I stared at it, then answered. "Alex," he sounded tired, older. "Listen, I don't even know how to start. What KH Lowe said at the barbecue, it was cruel. Susan hasn't spoken to her properly in weeks. I haven't either. And I'm sorry I was the idiot who started it." "It's not your fault," I said. "You asked a normal question." She gave an honest answer. Rob exhaled. "Yeah, I guess that was it." Then he cleared his throat. "I'm not calling just to apologize. I'm calling to warn you. Warn me." "This Derek fella is bad news," Rob said, voice low with disgust. "Temper. Borrowed my power washer and returned it with the pump burned out, then blamed me. But with KH Lowe, it's more. She's jumpy. Thin." He grabbed her phone off the floor before she could get it, laughing like it was a game. "Didn't look like a game to me." I listened, quiet. Rob continued. "She's talking about moving in with him, place he can't afford. And I got a feeling when this goes south, she's going to come running back to you, looking for her old for now guy to clean up the mess." Susan's worried sick. I looked out my window at the calm morning. I had a gym session booked, a meeting later. My life was steady again. "Rob," I said, firm but not unkind, "I appreciate the call, and I'm sorry she's in a hard situation, but I'm not a fallback plan. I'm not a cleanup crew. That chapter is closed." Rob was quiet, then sighed. "I figured you'd say that, and I don't blame you one bit. Just for Susan's sake, I had to try." "Tell Susan I still think about her," I said, "and tell her the potato salad recipe is safe." He gave a tired chuckle. "I will." When we hung up, I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel revenge. I felt something simpler. I had made the correct choice, and time was proving it. 2 days after Derek's name went on KH Lowe's lease, I got a text from an unknown number. "Alex, it's KH Lowe. I need to talk. It's important." I deleted it. The next night a voicemail came through. I listened while chopping carrots for dinner. My hands stayed steady. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "Hey, it's me. This is hard. Pause, breath. I keep thinking about your potato salad. How you always used too much dill because you knew I liked it. Stupid, right? I miss my friend. I miss talking to you. Things are complicated. I think I made a huge mistake, not just at the barbecue, a series of them. Can you call me back, please? I have no one else to talk to. It was smarter now, not demands. Nostalgia, friendship, soft words, but it was still the same goal, get me back into position. I deleted the voicemail. The texts continued, slow and persistent. Remember that diner with the pie? We could just talk. I drove past your old running trail today. I looked for you. I told Derek about us. He thinks I'm hung up on you. We had a fight. That last one was meant to pull something out of me. Jealousy, protection, curiosity. It pulled nothing. I blocked the number, then Liv called. It went to voicemail. Alex, hi, it's Liv. I'm worried about KHLO. This guy, Derek, he's not good. She won't admit it, but we can all see it. She's lost weight. She's sad. And I know what she did was horrible, but she's punishing herself enough. Maybe if you just met her for coffee. Not to get back together. Just, she needs to hear she's not a monster. The request itself was the insult. My job was now to comfort her through the consequences of how she treated me. I didn't call back. Then, on a rainy Thursday, she showed up in person. I was leaving my new gym downtown when I saw her under the awning, collar up against the drizzle. She looked like a faded copy of the woman I knew, thinner, eyes darting, posture tight. Alex, she pushed off the wall and forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I figured you'd be here. Mark mentioned you like this place. So she was asking my friends about me. I kept walking toward the parking garage. She hurried beside me. I needed to talk in person. You're just shutting me out. Yes, I said. She blinked like she didn't understand the word. Why are you being like this? She asked, voice cracking. I said I was sorry. I made a mistake. What more do you want? Do you want me to beg? A couple people walked past and glanced over. She didn't like that. She never liked losing control of the story. I stopped under the garage lights and faced her. I don't want anything, KHLO. That's the point. She shook her head, tears forming. You have to forgive me. You're the good one, the understanding one. That's who you are. That was who I was with you, I said. It was a role. One you made clear was temporary. Real tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm drowning, Alex. Derek, he screams. He broke my phone last week. He hasn't paid rent in 2 months. I'm scared and I'm alone and my family is judging me. I need my best friend back. She reached for my arm. I stepped back just enough to avoid contact. I'm not your best friend, I said. I was your placeholder. You said that in front of everyone. Her tears turned sharp, anger flashing through the fear. So that's it. After 3 years, you see me like this and you feel nothing. You're just going to let me drown. I looked at her and felt a distant kind of pity, like watching a stranger make the same bad choice again and again. You're not drowning, I said. You're facing the consequences of swimming toward a ship you thought was luxury. It was a leaky raft. That's not my ocean. Her face twisted, desperation boiling into rage. You're a cold bastard, you know that. I was right about you. You're boring, safe, heartless. I'm glad I didn't settle for you. You were never capable of real passion. I nodded like she'd given a review. You're probably right, I said. Excuse me, I have a meeting. I walked to my car. Behind me, her voice echoed in the concrete. Go to hell, Alex. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her sink onto a concrete barrier, head in her hands. And I realized that was the last image I would ever need of her. A person who wanted me back, not because she respected me, but because the replacement didn't work. A year and 2 days after the barbecue, KHLO's older cousin Julia got married. I always liked Julia. She sent me a separate invitation with a handwritten note. No pressure, but you'd be welcome. Truly. I decided to go, not for closure, not for a victory lap. I wanted to celebrate Julia and I wanted to show myself I wasn't hiding, I was a guest. My life had moved forward. I brought Sarah, not a girlfriend, but a colleague from my new project team. Sharp, funny, happily married. She knew the whole story. My job is to be pleasant armor, she joked, and to eat cake. The reception was in a garden venue under twinkle lights. I wore a simple navy suit. I felt calm. Across the lawn, I saw the Ferguson family like a constellation I used to belong to. Aunt Susan spotted me first and lifted a warm, sad smile with a small wave. I returned it. Rob gave me a solid nod. Megan smiled. Liv looked away. K.H. Lowe sat alone at a table in a dress that looked too fancy for how tired she seemed. Derek wasn't there. Her eyes tracked me the whole time. I acknowledged her the same way I did everyone else, a polite nod, then turned back to my conversation. I felt her approach before I saw her. "Alex," she said. I turned, using the same face I use in boardrooms, neutral, attentive, no cracks. "You came," she said like she was shocked. "Julia is a lovely person," I said. I was happy to celebrate with her. "You look good," she said. "Thank you, you look well," I replied, the harmless social lie you give a stranger. She swallowed. "Derek and I are done. He moved out last week, took the TV and my espresso machine." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I heard how empty it sounded even to me, a phrase with no meaning behind it. She flinched at the emptiness. "It's for the best," she said quickly. You were right about everything." She stepped closer, voice dropping. "I see you now, the man you became, this." She gestured at my suit, my calm. "I did this. My mistake woke you up. It made you into this." That was her last story, that her cruelty was a gift, that she was the reason I got better. I took a slow sip of sparkling water. "K.H. Lowe," I said, gentle but firm, "you have a misunderstanding." She waited, eyes bright, like she could still pull forgiveness out of me if she said the right thing. "I didn't become this to win," I said. "I didn't become this to prove anything to you. The man who would have stood there and tolerated what you said, who would have laughed it off, that man had to go. You didn't make me. You unmade the version of me that was willing to be with you. What was left simply grew." Her lips trembled. "But your confidence, your job, your life, it's because I set you free." "No," I said. "I'm free because I walked away from a prison I didn't know I was in. What I built after has nothing to do with that prison, and you are not a factor in it." Her voice went small. "So you don't feel anything?" I looked at her and I answered honestly. "I feel gratitude for Julia today," I said. "I feel proud of my work. I feel peace when I go home. In relation to you, I feel nothing. Not hatred. That would take energy. I'm indifferent." The word landed hard. All her apologies, tears, anger, and pleading had been waves trying to hit a shore, but that shore didn't exist anymore. Sarah returned right on time, holding 2 glasses of water. "Ready to go soon?" she asked me, smiling. "We have that early site visit tomorrow." "Yes," I said, "almost." Sarah turned to K.H. Lowe with a warm, normal smile. "Lovely to meet you. The bride is gorgeous, isn't she?" K.H. Lowe stared like normal life was the most painful proof of all, proof that the world kept moving and I wasn't waiting in it. I gave K.H. Lowe one last professional nod. "Take care of yourself." Then I offered my arm to Sarah and we walked away, joining the dance floor for our goodbyes to Julia. As we walked to the car under the lights, I didn't look back. I knew what was behind me. A lesson. A ghost at a wedding. And ahead of me was something clean, quiet, and finally mine. Lesson 1. If someone can publicly disrespect you and call it a joke, believe the disrespect, not the excuse. Lesson 2. Being nice is not a life plan. Kindness needs boundaries, or it becomes a role people use. Lesson 3. The best breakup is often the one with no speech, no fighting, and no return to the same argument. Lesson 4. You are not responsible for rescuing someone from the consequences of how they treated you. Lesson 5. Indifference is not cruelty. Sometimes it's the healthiest form of closure. What would you have done if your partner said you were for now in front of their family? Would you have stayed and talked or left like Alex did? And if K.H. Lowe showed up later asking for help, would you meet her or block the door and move on?